What's up, guys? Mike Lewis here, and welcome to the Mike Lewis podcast. If you guys want to keep up with me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lewis Official, and you can follow me on Twitter at MikeLew52. It's where most of my updates come. If you're enjoying my content, give me a like and a subscribe. And without further ado, let's just dive right into this episode. Okay, folks, welcome back to another episode. We're breaking down episode 4 of the Challenge All-Stars, and help me welcome my guest. You obviously know who she is. Kendal, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, all things considered. You know, I'm feeling a little guilty because I feel like during our first podcast, I put the reverse curse on us.
What do you mean?
With our football team.
Oh. Yeah, you mean like now they're doing terrible?
Yeah, I said the next time you and I do one of these things, let's hope that we'll have something good to talk about. And
it is your fault. Well, I'm gonna try and bring it back because I'm wearing mine, and then maybe I have to say it. The next time we talk, we'll have something good to talk about regarding the Seahawks. or maybe we just say like they're going to do terrible for the next 10 years and then maybe they won't.
What's like what's the vibe over there like in the Pacific Northwest with fans? Is everybody like down and out about the outcome?
Honestly, we don't talk about it.
It's an unspoken thing.
It's an unspoken thing. Normally, you go to the grocery store and you see people wearing their jerseys and stuff, and you're like nodding or "Hey, go Hawks!" Or you can hear people like yelling "Go Hawks!" like aisle to aisle. And now it's like crickets.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like when I'm wearing my Seahawk gear, I'm obviously I'm in the New York area with like the Giant fans and stuff. If I'm in the supermarket, I hear a "Go," but it's not like "Go Hawks." It might be "Go" something else. But no, I'm kidding.
Like "Go home."
Get out of here.
Yeah.
But we could break down this episode now. I thought personally that it might have been episode of the season thus far. I know we're only 4 in, but I really enjoyed it. I think we were waiting for that first kind of, you typically see in the beginning of seasons, people are just getting their feet wet, everyone's feeling each other out, and we were waiting for that first shot to get fired, and I think it did this episode.
Yeah. You know what I think is really cool about this season is that, and take it with a grain of salt because I don't really watch the main challenge, but it seems like there's always like your main people who sort of run the show, right? Or run the game or whatever. And I felt like season 1, it was very clear who the big shots were, who was calling the orders, and it was trickling down to all the little people. In season 2, it just didn't really seem like that. It didn't seem like there was any one person who had who was this mastermind that was calling all the shots. There wasn't one person you could trace everything back to. And so because it wasn't this clear alpha personality or personalities, you see all these people just sort of rise up. And that's what I thought was really cool. You see Nehemiah rise up. You see Casey rise up. Everybody's got their voice in there, which I thought was really neat.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I see exactly what you're saying. Season 1 was kind of like the crown jewel season where nobody really knew what was happening. So they were like, okay, all these different personalities here are going to speak up. And it was very clear who was like large and in charge in season 1, whereas season 2 now was kind of like, okay, let's take a step back. Some of the alphas are gone. Who wants to come take the reins here? And I think,
Yeah, and Darrell, at one point, he goes, I think it was right before this, he's like, okay, so just wait. Like, now is about the time when you start to see where the line is. There's going to be a line in the sand, and he's like, just you wait. I'm like, okay. So then this happens, and I'm like, where's the line? And he goes, oh, there's lines everywhere. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I couldn't see, like, a clear divide for anything. He's like, there's lines everywhere. It's like, okay. So, and I think he was a little baffled too, because it wasn't just a clear this side or that side. It's like all the sides are interwoven, which makes it really interesting, but probably a very hard story to tell for story editors. So I feel like they leave out so much, but they have to try to narrow it down to one single storyline.
Right. Yeah. So how are you feeling about yourself in particular through 4 episodes? Obviously, last season, you were a main fixture point, and you had a lot of involvement in what's going on. Whereas we've seen now, season 2, you've kind of played the middle ground a little bit and have been able to fly under the radar, at least it would appear on a surface level. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, if you're scheming or not. But how are you feeling thus far through 4 episodes about kind of how that's played out? With
watching it or in it?
Watching it as a fan, watching yourself back, or just from a game scope too? Did you feel better placed in the sense of connections coming into this one than you did in season 1?
I mean, I'm learning a lot, right? And I always want to fly below the radar, try not to be the center of attention. Didn't succeed at that in season 1. Season 2 came in, and almost immediately there was quite a few people who were like, I saw season 1, that wasn't right how they treated you, you're not going into elimination. I was like, whoa. Everyone should always expect to go into elimination. I don't think it's fair for anybody to say, oh, I went in the last time, blah, 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 therefore I'm exempt this following season. That's not okay. But there were a couple people who said, I just want you to know, I'll never put you in there. I'm like, that's really nice, but we'll see, and if it's my time, it's my time. So I felt better in a sense that people were a lot kinder, from the jump. And, people would say, oh, can you show me some yoga? I'm like, yay, people want to know, instead of just making fun of me for it. So it was just a very, very different feel for me. However, as far as the challenges go, I wasn't trying to fly below the radar in that sense. I was really trying. I was really trying to give it my all in every single challenge. I just couldn't quite do as well as I wanted. And so I, would leave every challenge excited because they're fun, but still somewhat defeated, man, why aren't I doing better? But is it the competition? Is it my headspace? Is it that, I'm no longer in fight or flight mode? So, it's not do or die. I can actually enjoy it. I don't know. So, yeah, in a sense, I felt better socially. But as far as the competitions were going, I was kind of, down on myself a little bit. But trying not to, show that and make other people feel bad because they're doing well. So,
hey, for what it's worth, I mean, I think you fared much better in the heights over water trivia this season than you did on the first one. So
the PTSD, I'm telling you.
Chalk that one up to a W. Moral victory.
Yeah, that was. I mean, as soon as I heard that, we would just get yanked off. I'm like, I don't have to do anything. They're just gonna do it. I'm like, yes. Whereas other people may have been a little scared about, being yanked when you're not expecting it. I'm like, no, please give someone else the reins. Someone else hit that button. So, yeah, that was good for me.
So you would say through 4 episodes so far, it's been an accurate portrayal of what you've got going on? Did you intentionally, you're just laying low, or
I mean, I'm not much of a drama person. Did I have my own sort of running storyline? Yeah, of course. I mean, I had different interactions that aren't shown. I mean, I'm not really on it very much, but really the storylines they follow are, you get a highlight if you won, and then really it's the people who are in elimination. And so if you're not going into an elimination, you're not really going to be part of the storyline, right? At least is what it seems. I don't know if that's how they dictate it all the time, but that's what it seems like. So far, haven't won, haven't lost, didn't go into elimination. So, for all intents and purposes, like, I'm just sort of background, and I'm totally okay with that. But there are many, many other storylines that everybody's having their own experience. And yeah, I mean, and like who's meeting who and who's bonding with who and who's getting along and who's not. And then you go into your interviews and they ask you all these questions like, oh my gosh, is that going to be a part of the storyline? And so I think this story is going to be presented one way, and then I watch it on TV and I'm like, wow, okay, this has absolutely nothing to do with me, which is fine. But it's not at all, the experience that I had.
Right. It's a 43-minute episode, so you have to remember there's only so much that could be showcased. You're going to have an elimination at the end, a challenge in the beginning, and then some plotting or scheming somewhere in the middle or early beginning. And if someone like in your case, yeah, there you go. So, if you're not losing but not winning at the same time, it's just kind of like, I think it's fair so far what we've seen.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I also like, as far as like a viewer perspective, it seems like they're showing everybody, and everybody's allowed to be funny. It's not just like one person or two people or whatever, where sometimes I feel like they kind of find this niche, and some people are just really great at confessionals, like they're just really funny, or really concise and good at telling the story. But I don't know if it was the casting or the editing, but I think they're doing a great job at like highlighting everybody and getting everybody's personalities in there instead of just honing in on a couple people.
Yeah, you mentioned the word being shown and being funny. I think that's a good place to stop on this next topic. We had a screen grab of you from this episode. They kept panning to you. At least had to have been 3 times when you're just kind of like, and like chuckling about something. I have to know, were you chuckling about what was going on between Derek and Nehemiah? Or was that the classic kind of sprinkle in a different scene to a...
Oh, no, I was right there. I'm usually, like, in a lot of the scenes, season 1 and this one, I'm usually there. Like, I'm usually seeing it. I just don't like to be on camera, so I'm usually next to the camera guy so that I'm, like, out of frame, but I'm still involved. And I saw them, like, kind of step back and, like, panning over to me. I was like, oh, geez. Because it was just one of those moments where I wasn't playing pool. And I don't normally want to be involved in gossip or anything, but it was like everybody was kind of off doing things. And it was like, what do they do? I mean, they play pool all the time. Nehemiah and Derek are always playing pool. So what are they doing? Like, are they friends? Are they not? Like, what is this? So I just thought, I'm just going to hang out and just see what their dynamic is because it's bizarre. And I had asked each of them individually, like, what is this? Is this a rivalry? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, do you like each other? Like, yeah, but I mean, I don't trust him. I'm like, what is going on? So I sat down, and then I thought maybe it would just be like lighthearted, having a drink, playing pool kind of stuff. And then it starts getting like really heavy and really like, I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, get me out of here. This is not what I wanted to be a part of. And so I was like, my instinct when things get like, heavy and intense or dramatic is to bail. And so I thought, okay, no, you stick this out. Like, you just stick this out and you listen. And so that was me, like, just kind of fighting with myself, like, oh my God, am I really hearing this? Okay. But how do you, like, just casually walk off? I'm like, oh man. So yeah, I was really there. I wasn't sprinkled in.
Well, I think your efforts might land you on a GIF in the near future. So
I'm surprised no one made a GIF of me crying yet. I thought for sure that would be.
Yeah, that was the other one too. You've had like for as much as like you haven't been involved in like the storylines, like you've had like some like moments that have just been used as like the main reaction to a situation. Like, you're instantly the first face that gets shown during like either an emotional scene or a funny scene or both, somewhere in between.
Like, how should we feel in this moment, Kendal? I can't hide it. And actually, And they ask you like each season in your interview, like what have you been doing to prepare? And the turnaround was so quick. I was like, oh, I mean, not a whole lot different, right? I didn't change a whole lot. I worked on some math, some flashcards with my kids, and other than that, I got Botox. And the producer's
There
like,
you go.
what? And it's, well, Kellyanne told me that going into season 2, hide your facial expressions. She goes, you wear it all on your face.
Wow.
And sometimes people think I'm being snooty or whatever because I'm like, oh. And she's like, so just, try to tone it down. I was like, okay. I thought, well, let's try some Botox. I mean, I do Botox anyway, but I thought, let's do a little bit more. Maybe that'll like help hide everything that I'm thinking. But it didn't. It just made it harder to cry. So when I was crying.
Wow. So did it like hurt or something?
No, it's like you just can't make the face because like you can't like wrinkle it all up and you can't like try to, I don't know. It just made it really hard, really hard to cry and really hard to stop crying. It was just like frozen, tears pouring down. But yeah.
Well,
So.
you've had. I'm sure there'll be a couple other occasions. Well, we won't hold our breath yet. I think there might be a couple more. So, we'll
Yeah.
have to see.
I think that's funny that they threw in that one. But the sangria was really good. Somebody commented on my sangria saying must be really good.
Yeah.
You got my sangria, had some entertainment, watching the guys play pool.
What could get better?
There's no TVs, no books, no nothing, so you gotta find something to do.
Wait, I gotta ask you since you're here. Since Ryan was on here earlier, he said that everybody kind of got like an ear infection from the pool. Were you one of the people relegated to that fate?
I was not. I was not. I got sick in other ways, but not. I did not have the ear infection. Ayana, she did. Hers is really bad. And Steve. And I don't know if it was I don't know that it could have been the pool. I don't know that it was the pool. I thought it was I don't think we've done it yet. Yeah. I thought it was other stuff.
Oh, okay. We'll leave it at that. So,
yeah.
We'll set the stage for the beginning.
No, we did go into the cenote. Okay, yeah, the cenote. I thought it was the cenotes, and then somebody had said that the cenotes have been said to have been used for like sacrificial stuff, and that like dead bodies would be thrown into these. I don't know if that's true or not. I tried to research it. It didn't say a whole lot about that. But I thought, well, I mean, if there's like dead bodies like decomposing in these cenotes, who knows what kind of bacteria that's going to bring, right?
But I feel like that's right up your alley then, because you're into all the Ghostbusters stuff. And
I know there actually was a rumor that maybe we all of us who went into the cenotes on season 2 may be cursed because who was it? Somebody got sick and they threw up like on like this sacred ground or something, and then when we were looking back recently, just things that had happened to people who were there, like maybe it's true. We'll have to discuss more later.
Yeah, bookmark it.
Yes.
So we're going to set the stage now for the beginning of this episode. We saw kind of, alliances forming. There's been 2 big glaring alliances in the house, basically divided by rooms. Where would you say that you fall in the middle of all this kind of chaos going on?
Yeah, it was hard. It's so hard to figure out like who's teaming up with who, and I try to do my homework ahead of time and just think about who's done certain shows together, who do I know that's friends, but then, I mean, you just don't really know all the depths, and people have done, people have traveled together, or they met up for some appearance together, so you really don't know who all is tied. So, So it ended up being, yes, room by room, but I think it was more upstairs versus downstairs. And
Where were you?
my room, like self imploded, like day one, because I was in, let's see, it was me and Katie, Jasmine, Jody, Casey, Leah. So there's 6 of us all in one room. And what they don't say, that first elimination or nomination, Casey, she's smart. She is very, very smart. And I mean, she's an accountant. Like, and I just felt like she was always moving us around, all these people around like numbers. Like we're part of her, work, just moving people. And I didn't catch on to that for a while. But she came back right before, I think, while Jody and Derek were in nominations. She came up to me and Katie and was like, "Okay, you're welcome." We're like, "What?" And she's like, "I told Jody to nominate me so that you guys are all safe, and so you better have my back." I was like, "Wait, what?" So, number one, thank you for keeping my name off the chopping block. But, I mean, if we're really friends, can you discuss it with me first? Because I'm friends with Leah. So,
Yeah.
so I was really upset because she
It's like
said,
a rock and a hard place.
What was that?
It's like being in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, yeah. To somebody that you're supposed to be friends with. Like if we didn't have some sort of a friendship, then to walk in and be like, okay, then all right, now I have to choose. But it was like I've got 2 friends, and I know that Leah doesn't really know anybody, and so I felt like I'm one of her people, and I don't want to abandon her. But it was really smart of Casey because now she's like saying, "Hey, I'm doing you guys a favor," so she can call back on that later on if she wants to, right?
Yeah.
So, but it didn't help me out. I mean, it did. It kept my name off the chopping block, but it was just, I did not like that. And so hey, Graham, quiet, buddy. So she, assumed that we would all have her back because she kept all of our names out of nominations. But then I'm like, well, crap, I can't just like turn against Leah. And so I was really upset. I didn't know what to do. And I felt bad for being upset with Casey because she's playing her game. Like, that's good for her to do that. I can't be mad that she's doing something that's good for her. So, so I told Katie, how about, because Katie didn't know what to do either, I said, how about you say one name and I'll say the other? And then it'll be like a wash, right? So we won't have any impact on it because we're friends with both people. I thought it was pretty smart. Casey was less than thrilled because we went and told both of them what we were doing because I didn't want, if I say Leah, I didn't want Casey to be like, what the heck? Like, I thought you'd have my back. And so we just wanted it to be clear. And same thing with Leah. Let her know that we're kind of doing this wash thing. She's like, okay. I'm sure neither of them were thrilled about it because a burn vote really is not going to help anyone. But I just didn't know what to do. I thought we were smart. Apparently, Casey was upset about it, and I thought they were going to maybe bring that back around, but since they didn't address it in the beginning, then because Casey and I ended up having this argument, and she called me the B word.
Oh, not the B word.
I know. I know.
That.
Yeah. So and then they asked me all these questions about it, and we had, this little drama, this night out. So that I thought was going to be in it because of all the questions that were posed. But anyway, it all tied back to that first elimination, and since they didn't address it there, why would they bring it up again? But I will say that Casey was plotting, and she was very smart right from the beginning. But I was really sad to see Leah go. That was awful.
So So when would that have occurred? You said that would have been the first nomination with you and Casey, or was it this latest one?
No, so Casey went and told, so the first one, the very first one,
The
so it
very
was Leah, that they also nominated, right? So to go against Ayana. Ayana was the loser.
Yeah.
And I don't like to say loser because then it sounds like, oh, you're a loser.
Lost.
So I'm like, yeah, used to yell at TJ too. They're not losers. So Casey had told Jody, put me and Leah in, or put me in, so then people would have Casey's back, and it would force the votes to put Leah in.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
That doesn't sit well with me because Leah's my friend, right? So thank you for nominating yourself so that the rest of us don't have to go in, but this plan was not like run by me first. So how can you expect me to have your back if we didn't even discuss it?
So that's when the alleged B word took place then, right?
No, then it came out. So then we kind of talked about it, and she's like, I guess she was trying to come up with like an official alliance with me or something, because she's like, well, we never really discussed like having an alliance. I'm like, we're friends, like, what do you, and she's like, so I guess, I mean, do you want me to run all my moves like through you first and we can discuss? I'm like, no, I'm not your mom. Like, you don't have to do that. And I guess that was her way of being like, do you want in on this alliance thing that I got going on? And I was just like, I'm just thinking, I'm not going to tell her what to do. Like, she has to play the game that's best for her. Just because I'm upset because it doesn't, it's not the way I want to play, does not mean that I need to make her play a certain way. I mean, right. Some people feel that way, that they want to force everything on other people, and I'm just not that way. So I guess she was trying to basically ask if I want to be in her alliance, and that just went over my head. So I was just like, no, you don't have to run it by me. Like, do you. If something is good for you to do it. But if it does affect me or my friends, like, I'm just know that I may not be happy about it, but that doesn't mean that I hate you or whatever. It just means that it doesn't sit well with me. But a lot of things don't, so.
So do you feel like you guys were able to mend that, or whatever that little thing was?
Yeah. I mean, it took, it's funny, because then cut to this episode, and then she's got me and nominations. And I was like, dude, what the hell, Casey? Like, she keeps doing these things that are just sort of borderline, like, putting me in very uncomfortable positions. And like, I thought we worked through this. I thought we were good. I thought I could trust you, even though you're doing something that's kind of shady. And she's like, no, I knew you weren't going to go in. I knew you weren't going to go in. I'm like, you don't know that. You don't ever know that. And so then, and she's being really kind of odd. We went to to this bar, and it's like me and Jody were just sitting there, like, hanging out with each other, and it seemed like it probably all in our heads. So I think Jody and I both do that, get in our heads and our emotions and stuff. And we were sitting there having a drink, just me and her. And we're like, I guess we're the kids nobody wants to talk to. And so we're just sitting there like, okay. And everybody was having fun. And it's like, Casey and Steve's night kind of thing. And then we just drank a little bit more, and Jody and I started having a lot more fun, and people started coming to hang out with us. I'm like, oh, we do have friends. So then I saw Steve, and Katie was talking about how upset she was, like, with Steve, and I was like, yeah, that really sucks. And it seemed like, I looked over, and it seemed like Steve almost had like this, I don't know, like he was a smelly kid or something. It was like this radius where like nobody was around him. So it was like, oh man, I felt bad. So I went over to talk to Steve. I'm like, dude, like, what happened? And he's, pouring his heart out, how terrible he feels and blah, blah, blah. And Casey was like walking really slow. It looked like she was listening. She says she wasn't, but I don't know. So she was kind of walking slow, listening in. And I was like, so I stopped and I turned and said, "Can I help you, Casey?" Because it was like clearly we're having a private conversation, and just, you know, you can tell when somebody's eavesdropping. And she turned around and I don't even remember what it was, but she just, yeah, she lit me up for a second, and she's like, "You're being such a bitch," and I was like, "Oh, really?"
I can't believe they would not show this, though.
I know. Well, probably because I wasn't mad. In my interview, they asked me, like, "So what did you think? Like, you know, were you upset about that?" I was like, "Not really. In fact, I was kind of proud because, like, to be a bitch, like, that means I was, like, assertive, right? Instead of being a normal, like, pushover, or I don't think I'm a pushover, but I'm just very passive." And so I was like, oh, I was kind of a little proud of that moment. And maybe if I had been really super upset, it would have been a big thing, but I was more proud, like, oh, I guess I'm a bitch this season. So, so that was, yeah. And then, yeah, and I did tell quite a few people, I'm like, "Casey called me a bitch." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I know, yeah, I'm really tough." So, like, maybe if I had, like, you know, yelled back at her or something, it would have been made air, but that's just not me. So so then we were watching. Casey kept saying, like, "No, I had no intentions of you going in, blah blah," and like, "You're just being overconfident, or you're lying to me." And so then when the episode aired, I got a text from Casey, and she's like, "See, I told you you were safe. I told you I didn't ever want you to go in." So I'm like, okay. I mean, we're totally fine, but it's still like in that game, you can't trust the person you're friends with. You can't trust the person you're sleeping next to. Like, I don't even trust myself because I think I would act a certain way, and then I do something else. I'm like, oh crap, where did that come from? Like, is that okay? So so yeah, and then it's over, and then you're friends with people, and you're like, okay, but are we really friends, or are we just nah? And people tell me all the time, like, people you're on the show with, they're not really your friends. I'm like, they feel like my friends. So I don't know. It's just this weird, and it plays with your mind and all of that. So, but once it's over, then I think, you know, truths start to come out, and you feel grounded again, and you can believe things that people say. Sometimes I think there are situations when people carry it with them, but for the most part, my experience has been that people tend to just leave it where it was.
Why were you nominated for this most recent nomination?
Because, you know, this is where I have questions as well. I should call Casey and get her on the phone. Because it doesn't quite make sense. I was there to help. What they said was to help push the vote in another direction, right? So you put up, to nominate people, you put up the person you want to go into elimination, and then somebody you know that nobody's going to vote for, so that this person goes into elimination.
Right.
I don't know if they were trying to get Ayanna out, or if, I don't know what Casey's motive was there, because either she was trying to get Ayanna out, so put Ayanna into elimination, hoping she'd go home, which I think she, you know, with the Sophia, like that whole altercation, I think some people were really not happy with Ayanna at that moment, so that could have been. However, Ayanna had basically spared Casey in the previous elimination, because she said she did not want to go against Casey. So I'm like, well, that would have been kind of pretty crappy, you know, for her to not return the favor. So was she then maybe thinking, okay, we want Ayanna to go in and send Katie home? Like, what was because there was a big master plan. What was it? If the truth is that there was no intention of me going in, then they wanted to push the vote another way. So then why push it towards Ayanna? Were they wanting her to go home, or were they wanting her to send Katie home?
That wouldn't make, the second part would not make much sense though, because Steve was, supposed to be looking out for Katie.
Yeah, he was supposed to be.
Well, supposed to is the key word there, or 2 words, whatever.
Yeah, and I think they say something about, because Casey said, would you rather, like, what would be better for your game, to send Derek home or to put, Kendal in against Katie or whatever? Like, neither one is a good option. But why couldn't they have done both? Like, why is it one or the other? We need to call Casey.
I think she's a little busy right now. But
I know.
Got a big weekend.
I know. I was invited. And when she invited me, I was like, wait a minute, are we friends? Are we friends? Did you invite everybody? I still didn't even know. And she told me, she's like, I wanted to personally invite you and a couple other people, and then I'm going to also invite everybody. And I was like, so we are? So, but yeah, I couldn't make it this weekend. Had this podcast I got to
do. Who's that?
Mike Lewis, kind of a big deal. So, sorry, Casey, you can't make it to your wedding.
Yeah, sorry.
You have another one. Oh, wait, no, I don't.
I can assure you it's for a good cause.
Oh, man. Yeah, she's probably stressing. Although every time I've talked to her, she seems super chill. I don't know.
Listen, I think she's got the social media thing figured out. She's very calm, cool, and collected on social media, so I don't think we'll ever know what exactly, or maybe that is the case. I don't know. You know what I mean? But
it's funny because when I first met her, we're in met right after season 1. Like we no, that's not true. So it wasn't when we met. When we met, that was season 1, because she was an alternate, and we sat on the plane next to each other. She's great fun. She wasn't an alternate start, but anyway, that was a whole other thing. But we went hiking in California after season 1, and she was really kind of quiet. She was open and talking on the way, to this, I don't know what it was, pond or something. And then on the way back up, because you climb down and then you hike back up to the parking lot, and she was just having a hard time, and she was really quiet and withdrawn. I was like, are you okay? What's going on? So I was trying to just lag behind and hang out with her and just give her somebody to, talk to. And she just, she got really teary-eyed, and she's like, I'm just really scared that, going into season 2, everybody there is going to see me the same way that I was a long time ago, and nobody's going to want to be partners with me, and that I'm going to be, stuck in this same thing that happened 15 years ago, whenever it was. And we're hiking, and basically Kelly and Nehemiah are practically running up this hill, and she's just, hiking it, but feeling like I should be running it. I'm like, no. I said, let's keep this into perspective. I said, these are not normal people, right? Most people would not have, be running up a mountain, but, look at who we're with, right? Let's keep that in perspective. And she's like, but I need to be more like that to succeed in this next season. I was like, well, then, if you feel like that's your goal, then start now. You got to start doing something, get your endurance up or whatever. But this could actually be a good secret weapon. If everybody's thinking that you are like that, and then you come in different, no one will see it coming. So use it to your advantage. And she's so cute, and she just looks at me tears coming down. She goes, this is just really weird, but can I just have a hug? I'm like, yes. So it was really sweet. And so then, I see her mastermind like in full effect, and I'm like, dang, she's like wicked smart. And then, she's winning the challenge, and I'm not sure like if she's on my side, somebody else's side. Like, is she coming for me? Is she saving me? Can't quite tell. And so I'm like, dude, Darrell, like we gotta. What's up with Casey? Like, what is she doing? Is she coming for? He's like, no, you're being paranoid. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, Casey's really smart. He's like, no, don't worry about Casey. And I'm like, okay. And like, Katie, what's the deal? Like, do you see Casey? Like, she's like really changed, right? And she's like, oh no. And everybody was like, oh, don't worry about Casey. Don't worry about Casey. And now, so for her to have this moment where it's like, record stop, like, Casey? It's like so cool, because even in the beginning of the game, like, everybody was just kind of like dismissive of her, right? Like, they didn't have to watch out for her. They weren't necessarily gunning for her, because I think in their minds they thought, well, I can beat her in a final and just take her with me, and then she's somebody I can beat. And then all of a sudden it's like, you see how smart she is. You see how competitive she is, and that she's not that quitter from 15 years ago. So it was really, really cool moment for me to see, and like from what I had talked with her about leading into it, and just to see how everything unfolds. But then there's like, I had to switch back and forth where it like separate myself and be like, okay, I'm a friend to Casey. Yay, Casey, good job. And then I'm like, but then when I view it for myself, I'm like, wait a minute, Casey, are you trying to screw me over? So it's like, it's hard, because I want to give her the support and encouragement that a friend would, but at the same time, it's like, I'm human too. So there's just always this mix of emotions, but I'm really proud of her, and I guess she was telling the truth.
Oh, it looks like it. We'll take it for what it's worth,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, she made the first big move of the season so far, and I think it's going to be hard to top going forward. Like, do you know? Well, it'd probably be a better question for me to ask her myself, as far as like why she decided to swing big in that situation as far as Derek goes. But what did you think about the move from like a third person perspective?
It was really impressive. And she gave the speech. I didn't see the whole thing. Kind of skimmed through some parts of it, but she had a very long speech.
It didn't show the long part though, right?
I don't think so. I think it would have been the length of the episode.
They did not.
No, it was no, they didn't, because there were some very, very personal things that she had like either dug up or held on to, I don't know, from very long time ago. And she went down the list of reasons why she was coming for Derek. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I think everybody was like, what? Because she just like whipped out things from different shows. And it was like, wow, full All-Stars moment, when TJ's like, oh, is your past going to haunt you type kind of thing. Because it was like, yep, your past is here to haunt you, Derek.
My question is, did Steve immediately follow Casey's list with a list of his own with one bullet point saying, I don't like your outfit, Derek. This is why you're going in?
I don't even remember Steve's, honestly. I mean, no, he may have said something, but no. I love those little outfits, though. What was it? Beaches? Chubbies. That's what it is. I'm thinking of him being on the beach. Chubbies, yes. I actually, when is this going to air? I don't know if I should share it or not.
I was going to plan on dropping it rather quickly, but,
okay.
I'll leave it up to you, whichever.
I'll tell you something else later about Chubbies.
Okay, we'll leave it there.
I'm working on something.
Okay. All right, so we obviously now flash forward to the elimination, and so far through 3 eliminations,
Wait, we missed a big thing.
Oh, what did we miss?
Well, actual trivia itself, right?
Oh, you want to talk? Let's talk about it. Sure.
Only because Darrell, he's like terrified of heights, right?
Yeah.
And so, truth be told, he actually won it.
Darrell won that.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Then, Steve, he's a brainiac, was like, no, like, I got this question right, blah, 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 and argued, and got Tech. Tech was fighting for him, too. And so they were able to, like, overturn it somehow, and they were willing to redo the ending.
So they reshot the ending?
Uh-huh. But they were asking Darrell, like, okay, Darrell, can you just redo it? He's like, no, man, no. Like, he didn't, what if he loses and he drops? Like, he did not want to fall off that building. And he had won. And he didn't have to drop. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen, it's not a perfect game, right? I mean, they try to do their best, but there are things that happen, clearly, sometimes, that you just kind of have to roll with it. And if a question was like right or partially right or whatever, and it was marked wrong, you just, kind of move forward, and people just did the best that they could. So to see it, like, for production to actually say, like, okay, yeah, we're willing to go and reset it back up, like, what? And keep in mind, this day, everything had already been postponed, like, due to weather. And there was, like, thunder, lightning, and downpour, like, in the middle of things where we had to stop and, like, hide under tents and then reset up. So it was like, we just want to get it over with and get out of there before somebody got electrocuted. So Darrell finally says, all right, fine. Yes, I'll go redo it. And so it wasn't like they were forcing him. Like, he agreed to do it, which I thought, that is impressive. He already won, and now he's, like, agreeing to go take a chance for an alternate ending where Darrell would fall. And I thought, okay, well, he's determined, like, he's just going to win it again. So then we see, what actually happened. So there's still an argument kind of going around on whether or not, I think it was more of the way the question was asked that would determine whether the answer Steve gave originally was right or not. And so some people think that, yes, he answered it correctly, and the way that it ended was the way that it should have been done. And then other people say, well, no, actually, he didn't get it right, and they should have kept it the first way. So either way, I commend Darrell mainly for taking the chance, and, because I don't think he had to. I mean, he was being coerced, but he ultimately agreed to do it. And that would have changed everything.
Everything. We probably would have, definitely Derek would still be there, but I don't know. Probably Steve probably would have been the one going home, honestly. Darrell, he would have threw Steve in. He
probably, since he didn't get him in with Tina.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I wouldn't have been nominated.
Well, yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know. And Katie would have gotten probably somebody that she would rather go against, because Darrell would have, yeah. So would have been a completely different show. But, because they redid it, then you get to see, like, all the masterminds, and, Steve's really freaking smart. But I don't think he connected all the dots, though. I don't think he did. Yeah, I don't think he intentionally tried to screw Katie over. That's just not how he is. He's very sweet. He's really a sweet guy, and to this day still feels awful. So.
Well, I'm just glad that you stopped me because I was ready to leave trivia behind us, and then you dropped that piece of knowledge there. So,
I mean, I think technically we're not supposed to say anything that didn't make the camera or make airtime, but I don't think that. I mean, yes, it would have changed everything, but it's not like it was all made up and fabricated. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, just like how they leave out some storylines, this was part of the storyline. It was part of how we got around, and then ultimately this was what they stuck with. That's how it landed, and everybody agreed to do it. So it's just like missing a chunk. It's not like you redid the whole thing and liked this ending better. So I think that's probably where we get in trouble, or would get in trouble with our contracts. But there wasn't anything that was like fabricated or made up. It's just kind of missing a piece of the bigger story.
Right. And, as I was saying before, this is the third elimination in, and we've still not to see a headbanger type elimination yet. And I felt that if there were a time to ever have a headbanger for an elimination, it would have been this one, because we would have seen kind of like a Clash of the Titans type of deal on the guys' side of things. I think
when
that
you say headbanger, you mean like
a pole wrestle, a hall brawl, like anything that's like a head up type of thing.
Yeah, I kind of thought after seeing the pole wrestle in season 1, like the very first elimination with Laterian and Ace, and knowing how beat up Ace got. Hey guys. Ace got really hurt, and so and I was just sort of sickened by the whole thing, and I love Laterian, but it was just so much, and more so like how bad it could have gone, because there wasn't, like, they weren't stepping in, and that's the part that made me upset. It's like, at what point do they step in and say, hey, you can't do that? Like, there just wasn't enough rules, I think, for safety. Anyway, so I felt like after that, things got better. I mean, we're old, like, it's not like we're going to break a bone and then, like, regenerate it real quick like these youngsters. It's like we could throw out a hip and be like, out for a year. So, I feel like they got to keep that in mind. That said, I think that I really liked how the eliminations were like, I think of it in like child development as like parallel play. So you're doing the same exact thing, just not interacting with each other. It's like toddlers will play with the same toys, but not together, but just separately together. And so I felt like that's what I was calling the eliminations. It's like parallel play. I really like that, because then it's kind of you against you. Like, how fast can I do this? How is my brain going to work, as opposed to taking somebody down and like making sure somebody else loses. I don't like making somebody lose. You just got to make sure you win, like do your best. And so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, we were all thinking that Derek and Brad are like, oh man, this is going to get like physical. It's going to be exciting. And it definitely was exciting. And Katie held her own pretty darn good with Ayanna. I mean, that's one thing. I tweeted this out. I said that Katie was struggling with the puzzle, and it wasn't like oh, she's mentally struggling with it. Not at all. There was a piece of the puzzle was like warped in the middle, and so when the pieces would slide to it just wasn't going. It was like and it was the same one that Derek had. So it's a little like I was screaming at them, actually, there's something wrong with the puzzle. But they would go over it. It just took like some time to slide those things over. And I'm pretty familiar with those types of puzzles because they have them in like every dentist office for kids and doctor's offices. And so like I would do them with my kids. And so they both of them were really close, where I looked at Derek's and I thought, he's got to be like 5 moves away from Brad, and like a quick 5 moves. And Katie was not far behind either. So I kind of wondered if it would have been different, if things had slid over smoother, but there's always like 1,000 what ifs, right? In any situation, anything can be a game changer in these games if the wind blew a little harder or a little less. So yeah. So anyway, I felt bad when I watched it. And it's like saying Katie's struggling. I'm like, that's not what I meant. It wasn't that she was struggling. She was struggling with the board because it wasn't flush. But anyway, so
I guess you would have cleared house then if you would have gotten that elimination then, since you had practice with doing it.
Not if I had Katie's board.
Yeah, anybody that gets that one might as well pick their seat on their flight home now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, but it wasn't like production said, oh, okay, you're going to have this one. I think they got to choose like which side they wanted or something, so it wasn't like anything was rigged or anything. But I did notice that in that same spot for both Katie and Derek, the pieces kept getting stuck. I was like, oh, that would tear me up. Like on the flight home, I would just be livid. Because it's like there's nothing you can do. But I think at that point too, it's like people keep saying it's a game, and like yeah, and you have to just remember that it is a game. But when all of us are, parents and have real jobs and make real big sacrifices to come on these things, like we want to have we want to give it our all, and we want to have a positive outcome and make it worth it for our kids to, make the sacrifices, for our husbands and wives to take on full responsibility, to use all of that PTO and not be able to vacation with our family later, like you want to make it like count, you want to make it worth it. And so when things don't go your way, it's like, it's just really upsetting.
So were you and Brad cordial on this challenge?
We're going straight out with that, huh?
I don't know. Inquiring minds would like to know. You don't have to answer, but I just thought I'd...
Yeah, we were.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were both, at first, we were both very standoffish, where, he was up at the bar, like that very first episode, he was pouring drinks with Tyler, and I'm not in those shots, because I was at my table going, dang it, I want a drink. I don't want to get a drink from the bartender. How am I going to get a drink? And then I think it was like Leah or Katie or somebody was like, I want to get a drink. You want one? I'm like, yep, please.
I've been there.
So, and I think I think Brad was probably in the same position, being like, I don't want to be near her. I don't know what this is going to be like. And then we were walking to go to the house. I didn't even see him. If I had, I would have walked slower. And I walked like almost right up to him, and he stops and he looks at me and he's like, hey, Kendall. And I was like, oh, God. Like, hi. And he's like, let's just forget about old stuff and, get to know each other in this situation. And I looked at him, and it was like I just saw Brady, one of his kids, like in his eyes and like his face. It was like I was talking to Tori's son, and I just looked at him and was like, oh, my heart just sort of melted. And I was like, yeah, yes, let's do that. And I gave him a hug, and then after that, it was good. And we have like basically an agreement: leave home stuff at home, and just this experience is this experience, and just leave everything else at the door. And I had talked to Tori beforehand, and Tori was like, look, Brad's a great partner. If you got to do what you got to do to win. If you want to be partners with Brad, be partners with Brad. I'm like, oh, I will never be partners with Brad. And she's like, I'm just saying, like, don't worry about any of that, right? So for him to say, like, let's just leave it at home, I was like, yeah, because that's kind of what Tori was saying too. And I think some people are probably like, oh, Kendall, you don't have your friend's back or something because I'm not being a jerk to him, but I have her permission to like,
Yeah, exactly.
to
It's
be
like,
nice to him. And she even says, like, he's a great partner. He's, she always talks him up. So, and, there's other stuff too that I witnessed, but that's life. And so to be in this position where I'm kind of caught in the middle-ish, and to know that I've got Tori's blessing to do whatever I need to do and don't feel like I need to go be mama bear. And then for Brad to say, hey, like, let's just be cool. I mean, it was really perfect situation for what it was.
well, I'm glad that you guys were able to kind of coexist in that regard. I think playing this game with emotions, with stuff that is outside the game, probably would have made the experience less enjoyable for both of you, I would say, if you didn't come to a common ground.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, though, I was like, man, is he going to be, like, trying to get me out, like, trying to send me home? Like, is that going to be there? And then I thought, do I want to get him out? Do I want to send him home? And then I thought, no, because we did have such a good, like, understanding. And honestly, like, the better he does, the more money he makes, the better it is for my best friend's kids.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, as long as, like, he and I are cool and getting along and it's not, like, ruining my time, then I would love for him to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think
I don't know how he felt. Like, if he thought, like, oh man, I got to get Kendall out of here. Like, she's really ruining my time. I have no idea. We didn't really talk about it. But it did seem like we had a pretty good understanding of just treating each other like anybody else there.
Well, yeah, I think we cracked out about every point that we had intended on talking about, and it was good having you on here again to talk about this very enjoyable episode. And I hope you had fun going down the rabbit hole, reliving.
Yeah. I really, it's such a great group of people. And I'd heard that the people who were, well, most of the people who did season 1 that came back for season 2, like, hated season 2. They thought that people were, conniving and mean and, manipulative, and I had a completely different experience on season 1. So, like, season 2 is nothing. Season 2 is a walk in the park. Like, so it's always interesting to me when I hear whether or not what people thought about their own experience in season 2 versus season 1. So I'm like, yeah, we had very different experiences. But to me, the cast of season 2 was so open, inviting, welcoming, but yet still playing a game. I didn't feel like anything was ever personal. It was just strategy. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come by. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. So thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to, connect and get my computer working. So.
Yeah, right. All right. I'll be in touch. Probably expect a Twitter tag within the next 12-hour radius when this is out. And enjoy your weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.